I've always said throughout the pandemic as well that, humanity will prevail. Like, if we show some love, some kindness, and, we'll all get through this. And I guess getting through the pandemic right now, I think that's what gives me the most, like, that's what makes me, my proudest work.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. A lot of our guests fell into the food industry at a young age or always seemed destined for it, but some start careers in other vocations only to be lured by food and in turn have made a huge impact. Junda Khoo is a chef and owner of Hojiak, with multiple locations. Junda, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How about you?
Good. It's good to get you on the show. You've had a hell of a year last year in 2022 with some real success coming out of troubled sort of times. What was it like for you?
Oh, it was very, very good. It was fantastic. To be honest, I guess the hardship or everything started, when COVID came and the whole industry was hit big time, and, just finding ways to survive, to pivot, to keep all of my employees still employed and, to put a roof over their head. And then after that, we had to struggle with the labor shortages and all that kind of stuff, big challenge. 2022, I guess, was the year where at the start of the year I said, let's, roll back to normality. And it was still, really, really challenging in 2022. But I guess in a way it's good that, like you said, we've achieved recognition around, and it's a good way to finish it off.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I know you've got multiple locations, and they're all quite different to each other. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I started Hojiak 8 years ago at Strathfield in an arcade. It was a 12-seater restaurant. I started the Hojiak brand with my business partner and I with 4 employees. The idea for my first branch was to just cook and share the street foods of Malaysia. And that was my entry into, I guess, the restaurant industry, because I'm not a trained chef myself. I just wanted to really, I really, really enjoy cooking. So I just wanted to have a go and see what happens. And then, after a year and a half, the queues at Hojiak Strathfield was pretty long. It was about an hour and 45 minutes wait for food, and everyone was just saying, you need to get a bigger location. You need to go have a bigger restaurant, because it was only 12 seats. So that's when we ended up in Haymarket. And, at Haymarket, my grandmother, Amma, she's been a big influence in my life. She's the one that we fall in love with eating and then cooking. She raised me, and so for Haymarket, it was a 110-seat restaurant, and I wanted to pay homage to her. So what we do at Hojiak Haymarket was pretty much everything that she used to cook for me, or the stuff that she used to feed me, and that's how I wanted to pay homage to her. And before I started Haymarket, they were like, you're crazy. Like, who's gonna pay money for, I guess, home-cooked food, right? And and then Haymarket became, I guess, Haymarket, and blew up. So at Haymarket, it was pretty much just Malaysian home cooking stuff that my grandmother cooked. And then finally with, I guess, Town Hall, it came to a point where I thought, for a non-trained chef, I thought maybe my cooking skills has developed quite a bit. Maybe I can challenge myself and to prove to myself that I am a good chef. So I opened Town Hall with the intention of showcasing the different regions of Malaysian food, but pairing them with the produce that we get in Australia, because a lot of our, I guess, Asian cooking, they still import a lot of the produce from overseas, because that's, I guess, it's easy for them. It's comfort food for them. It's what they're good at. That's what I did, actually, to be honest, at Strathfield and stuff like that. But at Town Hall, I wanted to push the boundaries of, I guess, Malaysian food and my cooking as well. And so that's exactly what we did at Town Hall.
Well, your success has been inspiring, and I want to get into that in a little while. But take us back to when you were young, and what sort of role did food play in your family?
Food was very big. I mean, growing up in Malaysia, like both I guess my grandparents, they ran to Malaysia from the war in China. And then they were put up in government housing where my dad was born. And, it was a government housing with just 2 bedrooms and 1 toilet. And there was about 8 or 9 of them living in that one small place. So that's where the story of, I guess, my family started. That all grew up poor. Food was, I guess, the thing that brought all of us together. Growing up was, always having, I guess, the cheap stuff. Like, we wouldn't be able to have prawns. We'd be eating shrimps the size of like a 5-cent coin. Only, maybe like when we achieved something or there was a reason to celebrate something, then we would be able to eat the more expensive stuff. But again, the food, like my grandmother, she was the pulling factor. She was the person that brought everyone to the table. For me, growing up, my fondest memories were when she started, like in the morning, I'd follow her to the wet markets, and then we'd do our grocery shopping. She'd feed me breakfast, and then she'll head back, and then she'll start pounding stuff on the mortar and pestle. And then that's when, I would go into the kitchen and watch her. And I guess a lot of Malaysian cooking is to do with a spice paste, what we call a rempah. And so every time after punching or beating them up in the mortar and pestle, she just starts to saute them on the wok. Because I guess, it's such a small place anyway, the whole place would be filled with, the aroma, and like no matter what, you would just, you'd be attracted by the smell. And I guess that was my childhood there. Got deported to Sydney when I was 16. I got into a bit of a trouble in Malaysia. I wasn't a very good kid. Didn't like studying. Actually, what sped up the process was I got caught shoplifting, and it was on the day of one of my math exam as well. And so, I was in a bad crowd. I guess before even that, we got to that point, I was bullied in school. So I was in year 7. A whole bunch of guys, a gang came, and they made fun of me, and then they wanted to fight me, and I said, "Nah, if I'm gonna fight you, like, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'll probably get thrown out of school." So I didn't want to fight, and then they just said, "You know what? Then if you don't want to fight, you just have to stand there and let all of us slap you." And then they all took turns slapping me on my face. And so I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I didn't really like school, and I thought the answers to that was to join a gang, and that's what I did. So I joined a gang in school as well, and then I got into a lot of trouble. And then my parents sent me to Australia when I was 16, and came here. I did high school, year 11, year 12, managed to get into uni. I guess Australia, in a way, was it changed my life so much, because even in Malaysia, growing up, for your HSC, you had to do like 9 subjects minimum, and you had to get a really good result, you had to do like 12 to 13 subjects. There was no balance at all. You just had to study, and if you weren't getting grades, you got to go get tuition and stuff like that. And then when I finally came to Australia in year 11, it was like, for the HSC, you have to do a minimum of 4 subjects. I was like, what? 4 subjects? Are you, like, kidding me? Like, this is so different to Asia. And then, so with the minimum of 4 subjects, that allowed me to have so much more other times to sign up for the soccer team, the volleyball team, the basketball team, and, started representing school, and started, playing comp and going to district finals and stuff like that. And I think that really changed me, because it gave me the confidence to be able to, I guess, do what I want rather than what I'm told to do, So, changed my life. Got a decent score for HSC, got into UTS, did a double degree, majored in finance and IT, project management, graduated that, got a job at the banks, Commonwealth Bank, finished up at ING, worked for about a year and a half or so in the big banks, and then, it's sort of like, I was so drawn to the food industry, and that I guess my bubble burst when I was aspiring to I guess play the corporate game. I wanted to make my way all the way up to a director or CEO level, and throughout my year and a half in the finance industry, I realized that it's going to be a long road. It's going to be there's so much politics at work. There's just so much going on, and so when I got a promotion, and my boss told me, like, sign this promotion, I said, give me time to think. I went back to Malaysia on a holiday. I came back and I just quit. I left the finance world. I left the finance world. I walked into a coffee shop and I said, can you teach me how to make coffee? I want to be a barista. Because this is how many years ago was this? I think I was 24, so like 12 years ago. At that time, the cafe industry was booming in Sydney, right? Like everyone was opening cafes, and like it was, I guess that was my entrance into the food industry.
What did your family think of that massive shift after all of the education and move into finance?
Of course, they didn't agree. They didn't agree at all. Like even before that, like I didn't want to go to uni as well. And my family, my dad, my mom, they've always been like Asian parents. They wanted me to be a doctor, a lawyer, and stuff like that. Of course, that's standard. But I didn't want to go to uni. I thought maybe I could try cooking school. But my dad actually said, don't waste your life. Universities are just going to be 4 years of your life. Go to university and actually have fun. Like, it's going to be the best time of your life. The friends that you make at uni are going to be your friends for your life. And that's exactly what he said to me. And I thought, all right, I'll listen to you this time, that. And, he was right. He was always right. And I'll be honest, the stuff that I learned at university is what, not so much the stuff that I learned at university, the time that I had going to university, friends that I made, that's what made me who I am, and that's what I guess shaped me as a person and a character to be able to, I guess, do what I do now.
Take us back to that cafe and when you first made that shift. How did it make you feel working in the hospitality sector after being in finance?
I loved it. So I went in, I got my barista course. I was at 24. I opened my first cafe with the three boys, my uni friends, right? So 4 of us. I didn't have enough money. I needed them to chip in. We started a cafe with 100,000. So we did all the stuff. We renovated the place, and we finally got the approvals, and we were going to open, let's say, the next day. Out of the 4 boys, the other 2 were still at their office jobs. It was just me and Guy Roden to run the cafe, right? So we're opening the next day at 6:30 in the morning. On that night, we closed up at 7. We were tired. We were so tired from setting all that up. We went home to rest for the opening tomorrow. At about 10 p.m., I got a call from the hospital. Roden just got into a motorbike accident. He was too tired. He fell asleep. He hit a curb, and boom. So me and the other boys, we left the hospital at about 2 in the morning. Roden actually left the hospital 6 months later. So, but the show still had to go on, right? The show still had to go on. And so the next day, I opened the cafe by myself, me, one person. At 6:30, there were queues out the door, and that's I always remember, and I always tell this story because that to me is my first taste of the industry. Like if you ask me how I felt, all I can say is I love it. It's tough. It's so damn tough. It was my first day, and my business partner is stuck in hospital for 6 months, and I got to do this all by myself. And that's what the industry is, and I just love it.
Was there any experiences from the world of finance that have helped you in the running of these multiple venues now?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I guess finance is not so much finance, but more so like accounting and taxation and all that kind of stuff. Those really help on the book side of the business. Whereas like the finance, my dad has always been a businessman, and I learned a lot of stuff from about running a business from my dad. And so I guess the rule to running a business or a restaurant or a cafe has always been the business has to come first. Like you have to make sure that the business is healthy, it's profitable, then only you can do and chase and pursue other, I guess, aspirations that you have for the business. I think a lot of people don't quite do that. They always just go like, I want to do this, and then when they finally do it, that's when they actually realize, oh, you know what, this is a wrong business model. We're actually losing money. We're actually, it's not right. And so for me, it always has to be business first, and that's the one thing that I learned from my dad.
This episode is proudly supported by Montague, handpicked for you.
The things that we're really looking for in plums, first of all, they've got to be sweet. We're really looking for a full flavour explosion in our plums. Red flesh is critically important to us, higher in antioxidants, so all that good stuff. And then we're also looking to add a slightly firmer texture. So there's almost a little crunch. You know, that's the real driver for us.
For more information, go to montague.com.au.
Tell us about entering the world of cooking and, paying homage to your grandma's food. What was it like learning those dishes and teaching yourself how to cook?
Yeah. So a lot of my journey to where I am right now is actually hard work, because I wasn't a trained chef, let alone I wasn't a trained restaurateur. So cooking is one thing, running a team, running a kitchen, running a front of house, running service, running bar, that's a whole different story that I'd have to learn along the way. I learn something every day, and I guess for me it has always been hard work, persistence. I do it again and again and again and again and again until I get it, and I improve a little bit by a little bit every day until we get to a point. So for example, like my grandmother's dishes, one of the reasons why I wanted to pay homage to her was because her health was already deteriorating at that time, and she was already wheelchair ridden. And so by the time I said, all right, Amma, can you teach me how to make all of these dishes? She couldn't. So I had to cook from taste memory, like how I remembered how it tasted like back then. And so I had no recipes, no nothing to follow. I just had to, just go in, cook it. All right, it needs a little bit more of this, a little bit more of this, and we're missing this, we're missing that. And so that's how a lot of my cooking is. And we just try until finally I go, all right, that tastes like how I remembered it to be. Let's put it on the menu.
Is there a dish or two that you can tell us about that underwent this process that sort of exemplify what you're doing?
Yeah. So, for example, the steamed eggs at Haymarket, right? It's basically egg custard that's steamed with chicken, duck, and century eggs. Okay. So, we were going to do it again. Such a simple thing, it's just steam eggs. All right, surely we can't fail. So we steam the eggs, comes out, looks terrible, doesn't even taste close to the one that my grandmother made, and then it's like, what went wrong? All right, so again, the simple things are the easiest to screw up, but when done right, can be amazing. So then after that, throughout the whole time of experimenting and perfecting the dish, you realize that number one, the water ratio to the egg ratio. Number two, how much of the salted egg and how much of the century egg that you can actually put to have the balance of the taste. And then number three, even steaming. Everyone just thinks that, or for me anyway, as a non-trained chef, I thought, steaming 100 degrees for sure, just put it in. Then you realize that, if you steam eggs at 100 degrees, it will curdle up, like it will have the craters on the top. Then that's when I started playing around with it, and went to, oh my god, the best result is when you steam these eggs at 80 degrees. And who would thought that, for me, that was a burst in my bubble, because for me, steaming a dish has always been 100 degrees Celsius. That's when water boils, that's when the steam comes out. But I was so wrong. And so that's, I guess, an example of such a simple dish that took quite a bit of work, quite a bit of time, quite a bit of failures to get to where it was today.
Malaysian cuisine has many influences and is incredibly intricate. Tell us a little bit about it, and are there some dishes in different regions you can tell us about?
Yeah, so the best example is laksa, right? We love our laksas here in Australia, in Sydney. But I can guarantee you if let's say you go and taste 10 different laksas in Sydney, even the 10 laksas will all taste different, because in Malaysia, it's I guess a lot of Southeast Asian cooking, not just Malaysia, it's all regional. So like laksa up north in Malaysia, we call it like a curry mee, and then laksa down south is a laksa Johor. Again, it's different. It's still a laksa, but it's all very, very different based on region. And then coming from Malaysia, then you have the multicultural, the different races. You have the laksas that are cooked by the Chinese, the laksas that are cooked by the Malays. They're going to be different again. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's so regional, and that's what I've been trying to tell a lot of people that you can't just say that this laksa is good, this laksa is not good. You have to try to understand what the chef of the restaurant is trying to cook. Like, he might be trying to cook a laksa from the north, but you've been used to eating a laksa from the south, and then you taste the laksa from the north and you go, hang on a minute, that's not a laksa. It is. Like, it might not suit your taste bud, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad laksa. It's just from a different region. The chef probably comes from the north or the east, so yeah.
Tell us about your approach to laksa. Can you what makes a great one?
To me, I like my laksa on the heavier side. So more, I like a laksa lemak being the fat content in the laksa. The reason why, like, to me, I'm a pretty emotional, nostalgic, and sentimental guy. Growing up, my dad played a lot of golf too. That was his only outlet, and that was his, I guess, ways of closing business deals. So we didn't really see much of him. But when we had the chance, we would go to the golf club where he was playing golf. When he finished golf, he would eat with us at the coffee club at the golf club, right? And I always had this laksa. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the greatest. It was a laksa lemak at the Malay. And fast forward, maybe a few years later, as we were growing up, my dad actually gave up golf. He gave up golf because he just realized that, my kids are growing up and I want to spend more time with them. And just because of that very simple fact that's why I remember the taste of that laksa so much. And that is that laksa that I put in all of my restaurants, the laksa lemak. I mean, I could have done laksas, 1,000 different ways, but I wanted to put that particular laksa on the menu across all Hojiak just because of the fact that my dad gave up golf to spend more time with us. So, what I guess what makes, for me, what makes something good or delicious, a lot of it comes down to nostalgic memories and stuff like that. But again, at the same time, personally, a lot of laksas are actually delicious. Laksa or curry mee is one of my death row meals. So, like, if you actually, I guess, follow me on Instagram and you see whenever I go back to Malaysia, I'll have a bowl of laksa a day, every day, as long as I'm there. Like, it will be all different. I will have all the different laksas from all the different places.
Your dad quit golf to spend more time with the kids. You've got a young family now and 3 thriving businesses. How do you manage that balance of work and life?
Very good question. I'm still trying to find it. I guess with being in this industry, it's quite hard to find the balance. You have to, in a way, I guess my advice is make do with what you have. Even if you do find a balance of, like, say, you get to work 5 days a week or something like that, but the time that we work, let's say dinner service, that's our working time. But for our kids, that's when, you're meant to be putting them to bed, kissing them, reading them stories. But you'll never be able to do that if you're in this industry, like, unless you do, just a cafe job or stuff like that. So personally, if you ask me, it's about making the most of what you have right now. I'm working 6 days a week still. I spend on my day off the whole day with my family, and we just make the most out of the time that we have. It's personally, if you ask me, it's more of a quality over quantity, and, like, if you get to spend a quality one day, it's better than spending 6 normal days with them. Whenever I get to, let's say we're not having a busy dinner service and I get to go home a bit earlier, then yes, I'll head home. I will tuck them to bed. I'll read them a bedtime story. What I do every morning as well is I make breakfast for them every day, pack their lunchbox, drop them off at school, and then that's when I actually start my day. So
the culinary landscape in Australia is a myriad of all sorts of cuisines all around the world. How do you see Malaysian in the Australian dining landscape and the level of its maturity at the moment?
It's, I guess, just like everything else, it takes time. When I first came here 20 years ago, there was plenty of Chinese food, there was plenty of Vietnamese food, and then the last 10 years, I guess the Korean and the Thai, I see more and more of them coming up. I guess right now is the time for Malaysian food. As you can see, more and more Malaysian restaurants are popping up, and so with time, I think Malaysian food in Sydney or in Australia will be one of the main cuisines as well. But that's actually what makes Australia Australia. Like, that's what makes be such a beautiful place. Like, you can get the best Jap food, the best Thai food, the best Korean food, the best Greek food, the best Italian food. Like, we're so multicultural here, and that's the beauty of Sydney, if you ask me.
Yeah, you had a big year last year, and incredible set of restaurants. Do you have any plans for the year for more restaurants?
At the moment, no. So what I want to do in 2023 is probably take the year to actually stabilize everything. Not forget, we just came out of 3 years of COVID, and I guess in a way that we're slowly fixing the labor shortages, and it takes time to go back to normality. I hope that 2023 will really be just another normal year, which is, I guess, boring, but it's fantastic for me because the last 2 years it's been hectic and stressful. But then, so we recently opened Chatswood, by Hojiak in Chatswood last year. So that one it is time for me to go in there to, I guess, stabilize that too. And then if there's a plan, maybe in 2024, like towards the end, we're looking at Melbourne. But we don't know. We actually don't. It's not. Nothing's confirmed. Nothing's on pen and paper.
Well, you're doing amazing things for Malaysian food in Australia. What do you love about what you do?
To be honest, I think I wrote this or I said this somewhere. COVID changed so many things. Before, I actually opened Town Hall 2 days before our lockdown. So we opened on a Friday. The government came and announced that we're going on lockdown. Monday, everyone's in lockdown. I actually opened Town Hall for the reasons of trying to get those recognition. I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to be on the list of, delicious 100 top 80, and I wanted all of that. And then COVID came, and the last 3 years has changed me so much. It's opened my eyes big time. And, after 3 years, yes, I did achieve all of those. Those were my dreams. I did achieve all of those. But I guess what gives me the most recognition, or what makes me the most proud, is to see my guys that has survived COVID too. Not just my guys, but like everyone else in the industry who has actually survived this whole pandemic and coming out stronger than before. And the whole how we all got together to survive. Like I've always said throughout the pandemic as well, that humanity will prevail. Like, if we show some love, some kindness, and we'll all get through this. And I guess getting through the pandemic right now, I think that's what gives me the most, like, that's what makes me my proudest work at what I do. I know it has nothing to do with Malaysian food or Malaysian cooking or whatever, but that's how I feel.
Well, you're an inspiration, and it's an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, to hear just a part of your story, and look forward to seeing what evolves from here. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.